Hi, let's make lentil kale soup. Because the kale leaves are curly, they might hold some sand. So in a big bowl of water, I just swirl it around a lot, knocking loose all of the dirt, if there is any, and then taking it out of the pan. Then I take the leaf part off of the stem. Use a sharp knife. Just cut it off, and out comes the stem. It's too woody to really cook with. Once you've gotten the kale washed and stemmed, then just rough chop it, just so that there's no really big leaves, and so that it cooks rather evenly. So I've gotten the kale, a little bit of wood where you don't want it. Once you've gotten the kale pieces all about the same size, put them in a bowl and just set them aside, because this will be the last thing to go in. Then heat up a pot big enough for the quantity of soup that you're going to make. Let it get a little hot, and a little bit of olive oil. Two onions. So chopped onions, and put them into the pan with the oil. A little bit of salt. The salt helps break down the cells and helps the onions to soften and brown a little. Stir it around, get the salt in all the surface, coat all of the pieces with oil, break up the onions so that they cook and brown evenly. Five stalks of celery, cut up the ends, cut off a little bit of the other end, and again, I'm not serving this soup as it comes out of the pan, so I'm just going to try to get it chopped up into pretty much the same size. It's going to get pureed, and it won't matter what these pieces look. If you're putting celery in soup, nothing's worse than this big hunk of not totally cooked through celery. So the celery goes in. Stir it around, get it all nice and coated. 5 carrots, organic, with the top still on. They don't dry out as much after they've been picked if the tops are still on. Compost. And again, I want these just to be of similar size so that they cook. I want to cut them in half, cutting those in half, and then about an inch. Well, I guess they're not cubes. Onions, celery, carrots, rather high heat, a little bit of olive oil and salt, and just to get them to start to soften. And if the edges get a little brown, that's okay. I'm definitely not cooking them or browning them. Once these have begun to soften a little bit, fresh thyme. You take a long stem, pinch the top, and then strip off the leaves, then take the top. So I take these thyme leaves, and there are little bits of stem in there, but these are the most tender, well, not that one, tender part of the stem. And again, it's going to get pureed into the pot. Get all the little Smelly leaves. Smells so good. Stir that in. Fresh organic parsley. Chop it up a little. Into the pot. Make sure I get all the leaves. Stir it up. 6 cloves of peeled garlic. Rough chopped garlic in the pot. Two bay leaves. 2 cups of lentils, washed. 8 cups of vegetable stock. This is 4. This is another 4. Stir it up a little. A little pepper. Cover, heat up to high, and let it come to a full boil. As soon as this comes to a full rolling boil, turn down the heat, and then watch it so that it comes to what's called a simmer. That's when a bubble comes up just every few seconds. Not rolling, but just a little bloop, and then bloop, down to a simmer. Put the lid on. I'm just going to leave it just a little bit ajar. 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, with a little stir, take the kale, put the kale in, stir it in, make sure the kale gets submerged down into the liquid. Just leave it ajar. 10 more minutes. After 10 minutes, take off the lid, turn off the heat, take out the bay leaves. You have to find them and then remove them. There were 2. The carrot should be somewhat soft. The lentil should be cooked, and the kale should be a bit wilted. I love this thing. Saves so much time. I'm not going to puree it into a liquid. I just want to chop it up into little bits. I just want to make sure that there's no big chunks of carrot or anything, that it's all about the same size. Delicious.